All right, we are live. What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom Says. It has been a couple weeks since we've gotten to talk to you guys. Hello, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us once again. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. If you're new here, hi, nice to meet you. I'm one of our hosts, and we've got two other gentlemen with me tonight. Mr. Kyle Henning at the top right of the screen. How we doing tonight, Kyle?
Doing all right. Doing all right. I've been a very busy time. Got a lot of stuff going on. The Olympics are off and popping. Team USA is doing their thing. It's been a fun Olympics. Hanging out, going through draft prep. Got combine coming up, so looking forward to a little discussion tonight.
Heck yeah.
Speaking of discussion, if you guys want to get in on the discussion, the YouTube channel, hop over, comment section while you're there, subscribe, and then you can participate. So
That was pro. I like that. That was good. That was good promo, Kyle. I respect it. I like that a lot. Also joining us, Thomas Pike, Arrowhead. Tom, how you doing tonight, Tom?
Dude, I'm just so glad to be back and talking ball with you guys. I've missed it. Obviously, Randy's not with us tonight, but it's good to have the OG crew just hanging out. We got to chat a little bit before we went live tonight. Obviously, this is my favorite time of the football year. You know, especially when we're not playing in the Super Bowl. But yeah, combine week, all that stuff. Football is like we're getting a taste of it back, and that's awesome. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It should be a fun off season. A lot of exciting things to talk about. Combine coming up real quick next week, actually, to be specific. So we're going to dive into that. We've got a lot of other off season stuff to talk about. Different rumors, speculations. Andy Reid had a press conference today. He reviewed a little bit of stuff. You know, there's been some releases and cuts around the league that have been making some waves, and there's potential retirements still being mulled over, and trades, and all different
a
types of
couple
stuff.
of coaching moves.
Yeah. There's been a good amount since we've last seen you guys. There's been a whole Super Bowl champion crowned. We haven't talked since the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl. So shout out to them.
Congratulations, Seattle.
Yeah, taking the throne for this year, and a pretty good game. Really hammers home the fact that defense, boy, it is good to have a defense and some top tier pass rushers on your team and all that type of stuff. You know, it really makes you think. But it also makes you think about having a really good running back that wins Super Bowl MVP like Kenneth Walker. So,
Or a decent line that doesn't get your quarterback killed.
Good offensive scheme that just dials things up very easily for guys. Good defensive scheme that just goes crazy and makes the Drake Patriots look like a middle school team. So,
dude, Mike McDonald identified an issue with the protection program of the Patriots and hit the spam button and because they just proved they couldn't stop it. And then he literally just kept blitzing the A gap, like, "Hey, I'm coming straight up the middle. Good luck." And they couldn't stop it. So, yeah, it was a rough night for the offensive protection group of the New England Patriots. The rookie tackle had some trouble.
Makes you appreciate Josh Simmons a little more.
They had some massive difficulty with getting projection adjustments on like stunts and the middle blitz, and Drake May had a Mahomes in the 2020 Buck Super Bowl type, or in the Buck Super Bowl type experience, where it was like, I am just running for my life. Oh my God, they're everywhere. The only difference was he didn't quite look as ridiculously insane as Patrick did while he was doing it.
He was a lot worse. Yeah.
Patrick was still running around hitting guys in the face with the football while still trying to avoid getting killed. And then
I saw Drake May had like literally one of the worst playoff runs in like NFL history for a quarterback.
Now, he played some in very, very, very good defenses. He had three very good defenses to deal with on the AFC side before he ever even got to the NFC. So
I would give him that. The dark side, the Seahawks,
something like that.
I think that's what their nickname was for their defensive unit. So
it was very good.
Yeah, shout out to them. Watching that game really made me appreciate how a really good caliber team can look. You know, especially on the defensive side, especially with the offensive game plan that they had. It's just it made you think, like, man, I really hope that the Chiefs can get to that complete, and it's not just another Super Bowl run of Mahomes just dragging the entire team to another chance at it. So,
and we all thought Sam Darnold would be the first QB in that class to win a Super Bowl. So
Yeah, that's where my money
USC guy,
went.
shout out to Sam Darnold. USC great. So yeah, it's we're gonna be talking about the off season and what we kind of envision for it to look like in Kansas City so far with the limited news that we've had, and then obviously the big thing is just gonna be talking about combine stuff, a lot of draft prospects coming in, and this is the first big look at kind of some of the measurements that we're going to be able to get from guys, some of just the athletic testing that you can get, the RAS scores and all that type of stuff that we're really akin to every year, that it really makes a difference. I mean, there's definitely a clear, especially when it comes to the Chiefs definitely seem to draft guys that have really good either combine or pro day performances, that are really high standard athletes. That's been a very pretty common theme in Kansas City the past few years, besides a couple few, like Nick Bolton, for example. That's always an infamous one that had a very low RAS score. But hey, here he is, in Kansas City still. So, we're going to dive into it. Tom, as our resident draft guy, when you go into the combine here, this combine week, and obviously it's a whole week-long thing, and a lot of the stuff that happens at the combine, we really don't even get to see, right? Like there's a lot of meetings with agents and teams meeting with players, and even just not even draft prospect type of stuff. There's a lot of deals that get done at the combine, and there's a lot of chatter and talk. I mean, you have the whole league in one spot basically, where you can just go out to a random steak place and make some deals happen. So
Yeah.
Your initial thought going into this combine weekend, what are we expecting?
Like you said, this is kind of it's kind of the starting point, some symbol of the new league year, getting to that place. Right, we're right on the corner. From the free agent standpoint, the Chiefs have work to do. We can talk about this more, but they restructured Patrick Mahomes' contract this week, freed up, I think it was 43 million in cap space. They're still about 11 million over the cap, so they have to have another move before the official start of the league year to be in compliance. So that means they have to be at least at zero. Now the reality is they've got holes all over this roster. They've got some free agents that they may want to try to keep. They've got some guys that they probably want to try to re-sign. They've got some guys that they probably want to try to bring in. So you're going to need to do some more work on that. There's a lot of people who've covered, what's likely to happen, what may happen, what may not happen. Some of the more obvious ones, cutting guys like Juwan Taylor, Mike Dana. I think one of the conversations that I'm hoping is happening at the combine this week is with Brett Veach and whoever is representing Leo Chenal, and maybe similar to what we saw last year with how they handled the Joe Tooney and Trey Smith kind of situation, where you have an aging vet who's been really good, and you take him out of the math equation and take that money and slide it over to the younger player, keep him around a little bit longer. I'm hopeful for that. I think if Leo hits the open market, my biggest thing with him is I'm terrified that because he's so talented and he has kind of been operating in a more limited role in Kansas City. I'm like, man, watch him go to somewhere like Cincinnati or Buffalo, or let him go to somewhere like Seattle, and they turn him into a Pro Bowl, an almost all pro level. I was gonna say Pro Bowl, but a really good above average starter, like I think he can be if he's giving those full time reps. But the other piece of that I think if you're following this team, that there's a lot of speculation, suggestion, conversation around Trent McDuffie, whether that's an extension or it's a trade and getting some more draft picks. I know there's people with a lot of strong opinions. Either way, I'm pretty torn on it. I think it really depends on what that number is for Trent. If they're asking for 30 million, top of that, look at what like Sauce Gardner and then some of those other guys have gotten. If they're trying to reset the market, I'm not saying Trent's not worth that. I'm saying that our team can't afford that. that's just not feasible right now. So, not with the state of the roster and the holes. So that might force that conversation one way or another. It's probably the biggest conversation with this team that could happen in Indy, because if that happens, that's your chance to kind of start shopping and seeing if there's some interest. And um, so yeah, from the free agent side and from the roster building side, there, like you said, there's a lot more that happens than just the prospects on the field.
Yeah, the Trent McDuffie conversation, Kyle, is one that's definitely almost one of the first domino pieces that you can think might fall. We saw the same thing a couple years ago with L'Jarius Sneed, where it's kind of a similar spot where you're kind of a lot of the offseason kind of starts around him, but you can still kind of move around and do some different things. But that does seem to be, especially with, like Tom said, the amount of holes that are on the roster, and Trent really being the only guy who you have under contract who's even worth draft capital. Like you could actually get a decent haul for him.
That might be a little extra, but
yeah,
he's going to get you the most.
The most, yeah, exactly. He's the if you're looking to shop a guy to get more picks or draft or just anything, Trent is the top available guy. So, but that's it's a big conversation that's going to have to be had, and at Indy, it's going to be probably a pretty relevant one.
It is. The L'Jarius Sneed thing is a good comp from the kick it off perspective. But the situations are very different. L'Jarius, I mean, we all knew that knee was cooked. I think the only people that didn't know that knee was cooked was the Tennessee Titans somehow.
Yeah.
The dude didn't practice during the season for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
like they were like, nah, man, we're good. We know you got it on Sunday. Why don't you go make sure that thing doesn't fall apart? Okay, good. Cool.
We're just need to wrap more duct tape around it until next week.
And so Trent obviously does not have those issues, but he's also a different player. Do I think he's absolutely an elite, a very, very good to elite boundary corner? Yeah. Do I think he's the best slot corner in NFL if he just played slot corner? 100%. His versatility ability, the blitz, the run stop, the coverage of, and a lot of offenses use the slot and the tight ends more now than they ever did before. So I think it comes down to a couple of things. One is obviously going to be the dollars, and just how much his side is going to want, and how much Trent wants, not necessarily just his side. And sometimes agents get involved and overshoot stuff for their clients, stuff like that. But it's that's going to play a factor, and the other factor is what they decide to do around him, because I don't know. They might be able to pay them both, because I just don't know how much of a market Jalen Watson's going to have. I know somebody's going to like him some, so he's probably going to get a decent deal, but he's not getting Sauce or anybody's money like that. So no. I think this is also, we talked about the combine thing, like you kind of find out what the market's going to be. The GMs all kind of figure out where, well, if you're good at your job anyway, you figure out kind of what the market for players at different positions is going to kind of shape into, because you hear things and you talk to your friends that work in other front offices and you get little nuggets. So there's an element of that to it. The amount of capital, I think, also plays a big role in whether or not they pull the trigger on that, because they still technically have team control. With him, they could very easily just go, you're just going to play here for next year. Here's that, or the year after with the tag and everything else. So
I think they already picked up his 5th-year option.
Yes, they did that last year.
Yeah, and then they can tag him again even if they wanted to next
year. So they've got this year. Then they can tag him next year. They could technically tag him again if they really wanted to. The year after, the problem with that tag is it's like 20% more than the first tag, which hurts a little if you have to go that route. But I don't think you would at that point. Then you would either get the deal done or trade him or let him walk. But there's so many moving pieces. They have options to be able to keep him and pay plenty of their other guys if they so choose. They're going to have to cut some guys, obviously, or restructure some guys. There's a bunch of different cap adjustments they still can make. They already did the big one, which was the Mahomes deal. Which, I mean, it's got to be really frustrating for Mahomes to get a phone call. Hey, you're going to have an extra $48-ish million that just kind of shows up in that bank account you don't ever mess with. Because you don't need to mess with it because the endorsement deals bank account is way bigger and way. So like that savings account you haven't looked at in 6 years.
Yeah, hey, we're gonna move your money.
That one.
Get it now instead of later.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, the numbers thing on Trent is definitely where it's gonna be the most interesting for a couple reasons. Obviously, the fact that I think a lot of fans, and the speculation starts obviously because, like I said, Trent is the person that you would be able to fetch the most from. But I think people even expect too much of what the compensation will be. That's always kind of the thing. We go into these and you're like, oh, we can get a first and a couple picks, and then you end up
corners aren't wide receivers, boys and girls.
Yeah, you end up with like maybe a second round pick or something. I mean, it depends. Like Sauce Gardner went for 2, but also a lot different player than Trent is. Also, another thing you have to consider, and this is always one of those things. It's like if you trade him, that other team is also having to sign him. That was kind of the similar thing with L'Jarius. We all thought, L'Jarius Sneed could definitely net a higher pick than what he got, but the Titans also had to pay him a good amount of money. So, and even Trent this year on the 5th year has Tank makes that Tank makes it.
No, that ain't me, dog.
Okay, Scout. Sorry, Scout. Yeah.
There's a little more bass in Tank's voice.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. And so, what am I talking about? Trent. So it's the number that he's going to get is going to dictate how much it's worth it to keep him versus to trade him, because he's already a decent cap hit just on his 5th year option. So you're ideally trying to sign him to a long-term deal that then makes that current makes this year and next year a little bit smaller of a cap hit, and that can kind of work in and fit some of those other guys like Jalen Watson, Leo Chenal, some of the other free agents that we have. But it just kind of depends on how they view Trent, because Trent last year, he had definitely the worst year of his career so far, I'd say. And mostly it just seemed like because they didn't really know how or what to use him with, because they didn't really have a lot of other corners to kind of go around him, So I think in a theoretical world, like you can re-sign Jalen Watson. You have Christian Fulton, who finally was able to find the field halfway through last year, and then Noel Williams is still there. So you have the outside corners, and then you can kind of exclusively stick Trent in the slot. But is that what Trent wants to do? Is that what they feel the most value is? Are you giving that type of contract to a guy that's only going to play in the slot or only playing in the nickel? It's one of the more valuable positions in the NFL these days. That's kind of gets underrated. And we talk about the Seahawks, like they had some really good corners that were mostly nickel guys, like Witherspoon and a couple of other guys who were just like, really good players, and Trent could do similar things to those guys. We've seen Trent do similar things, but it's about how they want to use him.
I think that was the plan last year. Full disclosure, Noel wasn't part of the plan because he's a rookie and they absolutely have no idea what they're getting with that. Plus, Spags rookie, good luck. But the plan was Jalen Watson, Christian Fulton outside, Trent McDuffie inside. The problem became Christian Fulton hurt, then not hurt, then not playing, but not, and then playing, didn't play very well, then played lights out for like 3 weeks. Yeah. So I think the original plan was Christian Fulton, Jalen Watson, Trent McDuffie inside.
It made sense.
If you can do that, if you can do that again, and Christian Fulton plays how he played the final 3 weeks or whatever it was of the season where he, played well, especially that, I think it was the last game where he was like, nope, like nobody getting nothing. Yeah. Like, I was like, all right, well, that's what we were asking for all year. Thank you.
Making crazy diving, like pass breakups and stuff like that. Like, who is this guy? Yeah. He's been on our team all year.
You already know what his money is. I think they can save like $6 or $7 million if they were to cut Christian Fulton, but there's some dead cap there too. It's like it's just I think if you can get Trent and Jalen both done comfortably, where it's not like, oh my god, how much money did we just pay both of those corners? Or if they can kind of backload it like we've seen them do. Because one of the things we got to keep in mind is Chris Jones comes off the books eventually here. Because he's just only got so many years left on that deal, and the next deal he's either not going to be in Kansas City, which would be a weird thing, or it's not going to be in the same ballpark because he's just not quite the same guy anymore, and he would have to acknowledge that. And I'm not saying he's not right now, but we're talking another year or two from now when that conversation happens. And so if you can backload that deal to where it doesn't hurt you up front and you can wiggle them both under the cap, I think you probably do it because it solidifies the floor at such a high place for that secondary. Plus, the other factor involved in this is Brian Cook, which people seem to keep forgetting that he's a free agent, and that's going to matter. So
that's a pretty significant.
That secondary has a lot of moving parts, and they're basically going to have to pick who it is they're going to build this secondary around. And so that's where we're at right now. We'll get a bunch more info on Trent and the Trent situation at the Combine, and by a bunch more info, I mean like 3 more words than we've gotten in the last 17 months.
Brett Veach has a press conference schedule. We'll see if he says anything.
Yes, he is going to lie to your face. That is
exactly what's going to happen. Yeah.
He's going to tell you like 2 things that were truthful, but they're going to be weird, random, little obscure things, and everything else is going to be utter nonsense.
Yeah, it is very much like talking to the Riddler when you're listening to Brett Veach. It's just like he says,
he has Andy Reid speak down perfect.
I have vivid memories of after the Buccaneers Super Bowl, him going, we really like the guys that we have in house, and we think that the solutions are on the roster. And then, like 48 hours later,
they cut everyone
and
get rid of everything.
And they literally replaced everybody on the line.
He was like, yeah, we really, really enjoy them. By the way, you're all fired. Just so you guys know.
Probably the scariest thing for a player.
You guys think they told him that? He told them that in the locker room afterwards? You think he just walked out of the locker room and was like, hey, by the way, not a single one of you is going to be here next year.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know.
I think that probably the scariest thing right now for a Chiefs players for Brett Veach to go out and say nice things about them.
Yeah, that's a bad sign. Yeah, that's probably not the greatest sign.
Chiefs long term, and then Kyle has fallen into the void.
R.I.P. Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be back for those.
He'll be back. Yeah. My last thing on Trent while we close out the topic.
I'm not in the void. Okay. I don't want to talk about it.
It's good to hear that he's
not. It's doing its thing.
Yeah.
It's doing its thing.
Yeah.
My last thing on Trent, I would not trade him. I'll just come out and say I would not trade Trent McDuffie and just kind of stamp my flag on that. I think, you don't trade good players and while they're still in their prime. But, I also wouldn't have traded Tyreek Hill initially, and that ended up working pretty good as well. So, sometimes you got to let Brett Veach kind of do his thing sometimes, and I do have a lot of trust in Brett, whichever way he decides to go. But, obviously it would be following the trend of Brett Veach if he didn't pay him and he just, kind of traded him and moved on. Because that seems, Brett Veach hasn't paid a corner yet in his era essentially. So we were pretty convinced last year and the year before that Trent would be that first guy to get paid. So I don't know. Things change, things happen, but I think I'd still pay him. I think you can make it work, and I'd still pay him somehow. And then also bring back Jalen Watson if you can. Those would be one of the 2 top priorities, I think, for this offseason for me. So
I think it is entirely about the cash flow and the price tag. Like Kyle said, if you can front load it and kind of finagle it, really what you would want is to structure that deal to not really start or to start to get bigger until Chris Jones, I got 2 years on his deal essentially. Again, kind of move that money back and forth, and then if you're planning to reinvest in that and the line, but some of it is also, you think about it from the financial standpoint of would you rather have Trent McDuffie or Leo Chenal and Jalen Watson?
and
Or,
Brian Cook.
yeah, depending, again, money structures and all that stuff, that's where those bigger decisions are happening, because that's where that year 2, year 3 into those contracts is gonna hit a little bit more. But we'll see how it goes. It's an interesting situation as far as what you can get compensation wise. I think I'm a little bit more optimistic. There's a handful of teams with multiple first round picks that have some late first rounders. My thing is, I don't want to go 1-for-1, so don't trade him for a singular pick. And if it's a first round pick, whether you get like a day and a fourth round pick next year, or even a day 3 pick this year, just get an extra swing at things, because you're creating a hole in your roster. To me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We've seen bad teams do this. I'll give you the perfect example: the Tennessee Titans. They traded AJ Brown, drafted Traylon Burks, and it was a 1-for-1, and it was a terrible swap. So,
very bad. The grass isn't always greener. The grass is not always greener.
If it comes to that, I'd rather take a package of multiple day 2 picks, and suffer a little bit that way, than to just try to do a 1-for-1 like swap. I think that's a bad recipe.
The 1-for-1 swap is the Peter Griffin Family Guy, the mystery box in the boat.
It could be anything.
That's
could even be a boat.
It could be anything. It could be a boat.
Yeah.
Trent McDuffie.
So the 1-for-1 thing, I fully agree with Tom on. Let me ask you guys this.
No.
Since Trent is talking through the trade stuff, and that's kind of difficult, I think you have to bring back one of the other two in the secondary either way. Whether you trade him or not, I think either Jalen Watson or Brian Cook has to return to this team, because Shamari Connor cannot be your only returning safety. Just can't. I'm sorry, it just can't be.
Still got Jaden Hicks, but also
they didn't play him last year. I don't know if everybody missed that or not, but he did not play at all. Very
concerning for the longevity position. Yeah, you're gonna have to add a safety somehow. I think, whether it's in free agency.
So the question is,
what?
Right. So my question to you is, when you're looking at the re-signing of one of those two, Garrett, I think, said prioritize Jalen Watson, but my question would be Brian Cook or Jalen Watson are you focusing on as either the second piece to Trent McDuffie or the one to prioritize the most when you go into it? Even if you do trade Trent, who are you going after first? And I think that answer could be different too. I think you could have two different answers to.
Well, yeah, if you're trading Trent, then I feel like you need Jalen Watson. If anything, if you're keeping Trent, I think I don't know. Brian Cook, he did have a great year this year, and he did take a big step up, and I would like to have him back as well.
But so did Jalen.
Yeah, so did Jalen, and the Chiefs have had better luck.
This is why I asked the question, because
the Chiefs have had better luck bringing in either free agent safeties or drafting a safety or something. I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at the safety free agent market, but
to your point earlier though, they didn't. We were talking about Hicks, and he was basically non-existent. They didn't really play him, and Noel Williams, other than the random weird benching that no one understood for like a week or 2 weeks or whatever, where they just flat out didn't use him at like the Buffalo game, I think it was, where they just he was there and then he was gone for like 2 weeks. And then, but he is another corner that is in that same physical press. He had flashes as a rookie, kind of like Jalen and other corner, other late round corner. Josh Williams did when they were rookies, and you saw things. So if you're just looking at what's next behind Brian Cook and Jalen Watson, you probably like Noel Williams more than you like Hicks, just based on what they did with them last year.
That is true. No, that is very valid. That's a valid point. Yeah,
so that's why I asked the question about Brian Cook or Jalen Watson, because
I'd probably just re-sign everybody.
Going to be interesting.
Why don't we just re-sign everybody? Make it real easy. We just re-sign everybody. We'll figure out the cap, and it'll be good.
Because because everybody has been screaming about changes to this team for the last 7 months.
Yeah, but these aren't changes. I think there's more drastic changes that need to be. So the secondary, I feel like was mostly okay. D line, that's the big problem. Linebacking core maybe a little shaky. Secondary,
this team's pretty surface level.
Yeah.
I'm not. People have said I'm overly negative or whatever, but we are feeling the weight of the ripple effect of some. So really, what happened was, this team was in a kind of a weird spot prior to that Tyreek Hill trade, and then Brett Veach had a masterclass. Traded Tyreek Hill, had a great offseason. Had that 2022 draft class was
Goated.
Probably one of the best draft classes in the last 10 years. And I mean, he got 6 starters out of that.
Yeah,
and that's
the best Chiefs draft class of all time.
Yeah, that's where we're at right now. We're looking at this team, and you're going, all those guys are coming off, and they're going to get paid because they were day 2 and day 3, and guys that have been we've been living on the rookie contracts, and I think if I had to, I'd probably lean towards bringing Brian Cook back, just because I think it's harder to replicate his skills. I will say it's a deep safety class, both in free agency and in the draft. So those are both things to consider. So you kind of have options, but I definitely think, and I love Jalen Watson. He's been one of my favorites since he, got here, and obviously his rookie year had that amazing 99-yard pick 6 against the Chargers. That was one of those plays like you just get so hyped for it, you just aren't gonna forget it. So love Jalen. He deserves every penny he's about to get paid. He deserves, but yeah, I think Brian Cook would probably be the more important piece for that secondary by a hair.
Yeah. No, I agree. And to transition, I think, to the greater need of the team, and Tom kind of touched on it a little bit, but the Chiefs, I think, are in a very similar spot to they were in 2022, where there are a lot of deficiencies, a lot of holes, and you're going to have to really rely on young guys this year to have significant playing time and significant contributions. And it worked out really good in 2022. So we're the next couple draft classes after that didn't quite work as well, but you're really that's kind of what's going to make or break having a decent season next year, the 2026 season. You're going to have a lot of production out of rookies and free agents, free agent signings that are kind of lower end, like the Drew Tranquil. We talked about that, ad nauseum. Like that was a really good low key free agent signing when we first signed him. There's a couple other guys who could fit into that category as well, but you need to find a lot of value in some of the budget bins this offseason, whether it's in the later rounds of the draft, trading back and maybe collecting some more picks in X, Y, or Z rounds. Just you're gonna need a lot. You're gonna need a lot because, like we said, there's some pretty sizable holes when you start really looking at how this roster is going to be constructed, not only for this year but the long-term future of this roster too. It's not the most It's not the most ideal. It's not necessarily. There's a lot of work to do. So that's also why trading Trent makes a little more sense in that you can get some more picks and recoup some coverage, and also the money part. You're freeing up a little bit of money to then do other things. But let's look around the rest of the team with some of the other positions of need, especially when it relates to some of the guys in the combine this week that we're going to be looking at. Wide receiver, I think, is on the other side of the ball a fascinating topic because of recent news and things like that around Rashee Rice has been obviously it's been news, and there's also been another wide receiver news in Tyreek Hill being released, which Andy Reid came out in his press conference today and was like, yeah, we don't even know if Tyreek can run really. I mean, we still don't even know. We still don't know if he's even going to play next year. So that's kind of not a conversation yet, but regardless, if you look at the Chiefs' current wide receivers that are on their roster, not many. It's not ideal. You have Worthy, Rice, and Jalen Royals, who caught 2 balls last year, had like 4 targets total. So either way, with whatever kind of investment you're going to need some significant investment in wide receiver this offseason, with guys like Juju Smith-Schuster being a free agent and Tyquan Thornton.
Well, they cut him during training camp, so it didn't even matter.
Who?
Juju, remember? That was a bad joke for my take about cutting Juju. Anyways.
I see. I remember. You know, I remember.
Yeah,
That's a good callback.
I
That's a good
do
callback.
Watching live, this is what it's like, but we usually, cut this part out where
I remember that time you're real smart now. I remember that. Yeah, he did say that. So that kind of compounds into the wide receiver need. Obviously, there's a couple free agents besides Tyreek that are out there, but feels like a significant asset should be allocated towards wide receiver in the draft this year. And this is the combine coming up is a good chance to get an eye on some of those guys. You know, there's a couple really talented wide receivers at the top of the draft. I think it's also pretty deep as you get through day two. So Tom, I'll start with you. What are some exciting prospects in the wide receiver room we should be, or in the wide receiver prospects, I guess you'd say that we should be looking out for in the combine?
Yeah, two that I'm looking to see where he's out on this list. Two that the combine is going to be important for the medical piece. First one is Chris Bell out of Louisville, who I think was on track to be a first round pick. Before tearing his ACL late in the year, and then the other one, which is one that, Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. He would be a guy that you're looking at pick 9. He has some of the best tape of anybody at the position. I think he is talented. He's dynamic. He's exciting. If 3 years from now you were telling me he was one of the top 10 receivers in the NFL, I could believe that. But he's had significant injuries every year in college, and I believe he's had. Let me pull this up because I don't want to misquote it. But even this last year, it's ACLs and shoulder injuries and so 2023 he played in only 3 games. He's just that's such a it's I use so hamstring injuries, broken collarbones, torn ACL, MCL, PCL. If what I don't want is a Sammy Watkins situation where you have a great player who's who's awesome, but it's just hard to rely on him to be there, to be healthy, right? He could pop off for 200 yards one week and then miss the next game with a hamstring. So those are the two things that I think we as fans won't immediately get to see, but are important for the conversations. Another guy that just I'm a big fan of that I'm curious to see how he runs is Washington's Denzel Boston. Big dude, big hands, jump ball guy. Really big fan of him, but questions about his overall speed. Malachi Fields, Notre Dame. Kyle, that's one of your guys. He's getting some hype. He had a really good Senior Bowl. Again, another big-bodied receiver. It'll be interesting because there's a lot of those guys in this draft. A lot of those kind of go up and get it. Not going to burn you. Not going to be the most short area quickness guys, but can be physical, can play through contact. I think Elijah Surratt from Indiana is another fun one. We'll see how he tests. I am curious to see some of Carnell Tate's more of his agility and route running stuff. Just see how he changes. I think he can do it all, but want to kind of verify that. I'm trying to think if there's any names that aren't the big ones that a lot of people know. Malachi Field, I think, is an interesting one. Both the Indiana receivers are guys that get some love. I'll give you one other one just to think about. It's a tough one. Chris Brazzell was second out of Tennessee. I think he's going to run well. I think he's going to measure in really well. Tennessee's offensive system produces some big plays for wide receivers, does a lot of manufactured stuff. A couple years ago, Jalen Hyatt was a big name out of there and kind of soured people again. One of those system, we say there's the term "don't scout the helmet." Sometimes you shouldn't scout the system. I think Brazzell's got some interesting traits. I'd be curious to see how he's going to respond to some of the instruction on field. and just working through some of those drills because I think he's a guy who could go on day two, and a couple years from now, we're looking back on how the hell did this guy, go on day two? He should have been a top 15, top 20 pick.
Yeah, that's valid.
Malachi Fields, I'm glad you mentioned him, is an interesting kid for me. He spent 4 years at Virginia and then transferred to Notre Dame for his senior grad year, I think. He's a big kid. He's 6'4", 205. Like, he's very tall. They'll probably put a little weight on him, I would assume, at the NFL level. With that big a frame, the Pro Weight Room program probably changes it a little. But I think he's a better athlete than most people would probably assume for him. Uh, he only had 36 catches last year, but he had 630 yards on those 36 catches. He had two 800-yard seasons at Virginia Tech or Virginia 2 years prior with like 55 balls. So he's not shy or not uncommon to get production at the college level. There was a lot of targets, and they also didn't have to throw the ball a ton at Notre Dame last year because Jeremiah Love was there, and so was Jadarian Price.
Yeah, pretty good combo in the backfield.
And they were up in a lot of those games, so you're not gonna be chucking the ball all over the yard. So he's an interesting one. If he tests well, he's a guy that I could see on day two being there in that either that later second or early third round range, just based on his athletic profile and the things that he's done on the football field. But there's just not. I don't think he can get himself up into a first round spot. I don't think that for sure. So, and you're definitely not looking at him at 9. I think if you're gonna go wide receiver here in this draft, you need to go early, not late, because at this point you need a number one receiver. Because even if you address the position in free agency, it's highly unlikely you're signing a number one receiver in free agency and then spending a 9th or a 30 whatever pick on 40 whatever pick on a receiver. And so it kind of takes the back end of this receiver, unless you're just adding another receiver later to add another guy later because you need more, because you only have 3 on as of right now. You only have 3 under contract. Like I said, I expect them to address that a little bit more in free agency, whether it's a top end guy or a Tyquan Thornton, type player will kind of determine where I think they're looking to draft that position at, because I don't think you can go into next year with Rasheed and Xavier being it with as far as the somewhat proven talent is concerned. So you gotta address it somehow.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think if you do, it's got to be in those first 2 picks. So some of these guys, unless they're, like I said, they're that 5th or 6th extra piece the first couple of years before they really try to develop them with like a 4th or 5th or even 6th round pick.
Yeah,
if they had any of those,
definitely need some significant investment, I think, at receiver in the draft somehow. A couple other names I'll throw out there that I'm a big fan of. Obviously, I'm a USC guy, and Mekhi Lemon is one of the top receiver prospects. If we were to take a receiver at 9, I think it should be Mekhi Lemon. And then we're going to talk about. I mean, we've talked about him a lot. I've talked about him a lot already. Really good, really complete receiver, I think, in my opinion. But another guy out of USC that isn't slowly climbing the hype board is Jacoby Lane. He's a really good, really talented dude. I'm gonna be really curious to see how he tests at the combine, because he's a little bit bigger of a guy as well. That he has sneaky, deceptive speed. I think he can really fly up some boards with a really good combine performance. And I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't make it out of the second round, and even if he's a higher second round guy. He might be a guy that will end up in around the 40 range. That I think would be a really good contributor that can. Has really good body control, is a good deep threat guy, is good at contested catches, but can also do a lot of the savvy route running type of stuff and things like that. I think he has a really good understanding of the receiver position, which is a good trait to have. A guy that really understands the nuances and stuff like that. He was really impressive, especially at the Senior Bowl. He had some really good run there. And then another guy I'm curious about, just another kind of a flyer guy, Brennan Thompson out of Mississippi State. they're hyping this guy up like he might break the combine, the 40-yard combine record of Xavier Worthy. And I don't see it personally. I don't. A couple years ago, there's a couple other Texas receivers that were coming out and saying that they were going to try to break his record, and I think Isaiah Bond ran like a 4.3. It was like, all right, buddy, calm down. There's different levels to this stuff. So we'll see if Brennan Thompson how fast he runs. He's a small guy, like 5'9", 180 or something, 170. So obviously that's the height and the weight that you can kind of do it at if you're that lightweight. So we'll see what he runs, but other than that, I don't know. Obviously, the Chiefs are accustomed to getting burner receivers and stuff like that. So, and if anyone runs in a 4.2 range, I would say they're probably on the Chiefs board. So you can kind of maybe narrow it down a little bit to anyone in the 4.2s. I think will probably move up the Chiefs board just by how they are.
There's another obviously the other wide receiver that's going to be at the combine that I don't even know if he's going to test. He may just do the meetings and do the medicals and the meetings. It would be Carnell Tate, who's another name that would be in play at 9. And I think if he's still available at 9 and you pick any other wide receiver, you may end up regretting it in the future. He's very
good. Yeah, Ohio State receivers are pretty good.
They, especially when they were being coached by Brian Hartline, who just got promoted to he's now in, I think, Miami, isn't he, or something like that. He's in the NFL now, or he took a head job. Sorry, Brian Hartline took a head college job, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been working with an NFL wide receiver coach who just got his promotion to head coach. They've been a wide receiver factory for the last several years. He's a freakishly talented kid.
Yeah,
but that's another. Like I said, if you're at 9 and you have every wide receiver on the board still, and you're going to go wide receiver, I just don't. It's extraordinarily hard for me to go anywhere else other than Carnell Tate. So, like I said, I don't even know if he's going to run or do anything at the combine. He may wait for the pro day at Ohio State. Some of these guys will not actually run or do all of the combine things because some of these guys, frankly, don't need to. They can do it on their own terms in their own buildings and be comfortable, but they're going for either, the interviews with the teams or the medicals or stuff like that. So, something else to keep in mind.
Important. Again, it's a guy like Jordan Tyson. That's going to be important for them.
He's going to see Rick Burkholder a lot, is what you're telling me. A lot of Rick Burkholder and Jordan Tyson conversation. So
I think we'll see a few more guys running and testing this year than what we had before because, this class is strong at non-premier positions. So the strength of this class is, running, top of the running back room. It's a stupid deep tight end class. Like this is a good year to need a tight end. You've got
which they do.
Yeah. Linebackers. There's a lot of linebackers. There's a lot of safeties. There's some quality corners, littered throughout. It's not heavy in star powers, but I think there's just a lot of room for guys to be able to maybe really improve themselves or improve their positioning with good testing. So wouldn't surprise me if we see a little bit more participation this year than we do normally, just because I think there's, the difference with some guy like Jordan Tyson, Makai Lemon, I'm sorry. Makai Lemon and Carnell Tate, those guys grade. They all have their very different style of receivers. They're all very talented. I think generally speaking, most people have them as a kind of a top 10, top 15 player. Sometimes those field workouts they just make the difference. Getting to see a kid move and catch and how they operate live and how they operate under the stress of that moment can make a difference for a team. So I think we'll see a little bit more work this year than we have in years past, where there's kind of been some positions that have been a little bit more solidified in terms of who the top dog or top dogs are. So should be a good combine.
You mentioned the running back class, and that's the other guy. There's a couple of guys in there that I want to see as far as testing is concerned. Mm-hmm. I do want to see how Jadarian tests because I think he's going to test pretty well. He's he got a little overshadowed because the guy in front of him is Jeremiah Love. And but they were a whole problem for anybody that had to deal with either one of them. Katron Allen's testing will be interesting to me. Just I'm very curious to see if he tests better than he looks in some instances on the field. Because at times he seems to not be like, you see flashes of like, wow, that was crazy, and then you see stuff like, is he running full speed? What is happening? What's going on here? So that one will be interesting to kind of see how he tests. And then I'm actually pretty interested to see what they do, how Noah Whittington from Oregon does. That's another guy I'm a little curious about what his testing profile looks like. So
yeah, I love Katron Allen because he's the guy that, like, it makes no sense for him to be successful, especially like you said, like, oh, he looks like he's running this way or that way. His nickname is Fat Man, like, but he's the guy who's gonna just, like, you're gonna watch him stick around the league for 5, 6, 7, years, compile 2 or 3, 1,000-yard seasons. It's a couple of just crazy highlight reels where he's carrying 3 guys into an end zone, like, or just whatever. I have to work hard not to, because like my kind of my baseline for like guys like him, like, makes me think of like James Conner. I think James Conner was a little bit more shifty, but the other one that came to mind, which probably isn't a fair comparison, but LeGarrette Blount from Tampa Bay and then New England, like, yeah, that kind of guy who just, like, they're never going to be the back, top of the class, but they're going to be solid guys who just come in there and defenses are going to be like, man, why won't this guy just go down? Like, or I thought I had him and then I think he slipped out of my hand with, I think, was that, donut jelly on his jersey? What in the world? Like, how did he get away from me?
Is he going to have to do the punch the boxing bag test at the combine so we can see if he has the same right hook that LeGarrette has?
Yeah, it's good quality. Good quality to have. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a good.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like, the biggest thing when you look at like running backs and testing and stuff like that. I mean, the 40 time is like, it's interesting, but like I'm always more curious about like the shuttle and like the 3-cone drill and stuff like that, where you're showing like short area bursts and stuff like that. Also, obviously the bench press. Just see if any of these guys can just put up 15, 20 reps on the bench and see, give a little indication of maybe their pass pro capabilities as well. That's always a big thing.
See, I think running backs should squat and not bench press for the.
That'd also be good. Yeah, they should add squatting. Yeah.
I mean, they're running back guys. Lower half, kind of important. Probably, I know running is a good indicator, but also like, how strong are them legs? Like, can they hold up weight? These defensive linemen and these offensive linemen, they're going to be, hanging on, falling on, ending up on top of these guys, kind of heavy. So that seems like something I would be interested in.
Another thing they need to measure too is just the quad diameter. How big are their quads? Like, if you go like, we need to, and then Saquon is obviously the baseline. Like, okay, if his quads are 1 or 2 inches of Saquon's, like, that's
drafted
him up your board. Move that guy up your board stat.
Make a unit of quad measurement called a Saquon.
Yeah, exactly.
This quarter Saquon, half Saquon.
Yeah, bro has 0.9 Saquons to him. That's a pretty good quad. Yeah, so these are all just improvements. NFL Combine. Feel free to take any of our ideas. We can come up with more if you need them. We've got.
Oh, I've got some ideas for wide receivers and quarterbacks. Yeah,
I think there should be a simulated experience where players decide whether or not they're going to tweet something stupid after a game, and I think the Chiefs should probably have an interview process with any wide receivers that they potentially want to draft, that they can screen who that person is going to pick as a romantic partner and how they can solve conflicts together, because that seems the theme that some of our young receivers struggle with for a while.
Really got to up the Wonderlic questions. We got to go beyond.
A vacuum repair class, I think, would be.
He was a linebacker.
Well, okay, fine, but he ran fast. Maybe we'll do him for everybody.
Yes, he
but he
did.
ran fast.
He ran fast.
Speaking of guys who have off the field issues and would fit in perfectly with Kansas City, running back Seth McGowan out of Kentucky. Seen a little bit of him. Haven't done a deep dive on his stuff. Uh, had a significant off the field issue, um, robbery, firearm, assault kind of thing.
Some of those things.
Yeah, just no biggie, just casual Tuesday afternoon scuffle. But very talented player, very intriguing skill set, size, speed. Interesting to see how he tests. If you want the non-felonious version, Mike Washington Jr. at Arkansas is probably another
Non-felonious. Is that a word?
Felonious?
Yes, it is. It's
Interesting.
100% a word, and it was actually used correctly.
With,
Oh God!
sentence: Our president participates in felonious behavior on a regular basis. If I'm not here next week, it's because they came. Mike Washington Jr. out of Arkansas, older prospect in this class, but 6'2", 223. We know that Andy and Brett like their big backs. He's a 6-year senior, 5-year, 5th-year player. 8 touchdowns, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, 700 yards last year. Interesting guy. Kind of reminds me of Niall Davis. Like, not necessarily the fast. Like, he's fast, but only in like a straight line. But he's also like built like a bowling ball. So you kind of throw him downfield and just watch him go. As long as it's a straight line, we're okay.
Tom, are you as out on Nick Singleton as I am?
I want to be, but much like a Nicholas Sparks character, I just cannot quit him. I want to be, and then I go look at his. We'll see how he tests, but then I go look at some of his explosive stuff, and I was like, man, it's like he's either housing it for 7 or getting tackled for a loss of 2.
He's way worse than Katron, but with the inconsistencies for me, and like it's just such a roller coaster ride. And then now I know he probably won't have this problem in Kansas City because Eric Bieniemy will glue the ball to his forearm, but there were when he was younger, there were some ball security things, if I'm remembering correctly, where he had a few fumbles his earlier years. I cannot remember if it continued farther into his career, but I just don't see it. He's a fine back. I'm not there. Jam Miller from Alabama has been interesting running back for all of his time at Alabama.
Right.
It almost always felt like he was good, but it almost always felt like he never really fit in at Alabama, or they just couldn't figure out how they wanted to. I don't know. So his testing could be another interesting, because if he tests well, that's a dude that. I mean, he has it when they use him, but it was like sometimes they just acted like he wasn't there, and I don't know.
Yeah, Alabama.
Sometimes those Bama running backs are tricky.
Fall from grace.
Yeah, sometimes Bama running backs either hit or miss, like a pretty big hit or a pretty big miss, I feel like. So be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see the testing and whatnot for running backs. One more position let's talk about real quick. Edge, defensive line. There's a lot of names on the whole defensive line, really. Obviously, edge rushers, guys at the top of the draft like David Bailey and Ruben Bain. Some of the other kind of mid-tier guys are Mason Thomas, Romello Heights. Some of those guys are going to be out there testing. Once again, kind of, how much can you get out of just the testing numbers versus, what their tape shows and stuff is always interesting. And then the big fellas too. Some of those big guys like Caleb Banks or Lee Hunter or some of those guys that are. It's always fun to just see how the big fellas are moving out there and what top speeds they're hitting. So, Tom, what are you looking for on the D line?
I don't know if I'm looking for this, but I made a promise to myself.
Okay.
Because when I watch Caleb Banks play, I look at him, and there are a lot of things.
Well, shout out Caleb Banks right there.
Of Chris Jones. So the oath that I'm making to you, my friends, and our beloved listeners is that if while Caleb Banks is running the 40-yard dash, his hammer also happens to fall out of his pants,
Yeah, just
I
turn the card
am
in right
going to
now.
devote myself wholeheartedly to making sure that the Chiefs draft Caleb Banks at number 9, no matter what. I will go full, draft day movie with the sticky post-it note. I will.
So you wouldn't trade back to get and still try to get him. You would just take him.
Okay. So I'm developing a little bit of a Caleb Banks crush. The trading back would be awesome, and I do love Latin Assassin, awesome name. I love both those players. Monroe Freeling is a tackle out of Georgia who is actually rising. He's gotten a lot of buzz this week and probably is going to test well and end up being a top 20 guy is my read on it. I would love to trade back. It's going to be hard to trade back from 9. The only way that plays out is if Ty Simpson has a really good kind of process and somebody wants to jump in front of the Rams or one of those other teams who kind of may need a quarterback. But if Ty Simpson starts to do that, like we know that the snowball or the quarterback stock tends to snowball. So trading back would just be hard. It means that there's got to be somebody who wants to get up there to get somebody that they want. I do like Caleb Banks a lot. I'm excited to see how he tests. He's another guy with the medicals that want to test out. Got to get an official measurement on some of these arm lengths for guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a couple guys that I think are flying below the radar that I'm curious about. Some of these guys.
Tedrick Falk. No? Eldrick Falk? No? Oh. That's a joke, kids. That's a joke. That was a joke. Tom is not like.
I don't have to worry about Keldrick Falk's arm length or whatever. We'll see what he runs. I mean, I think he could run really well and end up being a guy who
4.8.
I've compared him to Trayvon Walker, who all right, so a couple guys to really look at. I am fascinated with this kid out of Western Michigan, and that takes a lot for me because I haven't forgiven them for Sky Moore. But Ndame Tucker, 1 year guy.
It is February 20th, and Sky Moore, who is not even in Kansas City and plays in San Francisco, is catching strays.
So, Ndame Tucker, 6'3", 250. Here's his stat lines.
Did you say 250?
250. 6'3".
Is he playing linebacker?
Defensive end. So that's what he's listed. Here's his stat lines for his college career. 2002, 1 tackle. 2023, 7 tackles. No sacks. 2024, 2 tackles. No sacks. 2025, 55 tackles. 33 of those solo. 14 and a half sacks and 4 forced fumbles.
Was he asleep for 3 years?
So he was a transfer. But it wasn't. So he went to Western Michigan. He was at Houston, played at Hutchinson Community College. Did really well there. Then went to Houston. He's also an older player at 25. He's just a fun one as like maybe a day 3 guy, might be a rotational guy, but I'm curious about how he tests. To see how he kind of bends. That flexibility, those short range things. I'm also.
Can I ask you a question?
You cannot.
Yeah, it's strictly based on what's the lightest defensive end to play for Steve Spagnuolo? Just out of curiosity.
Probably Josh Uche.
I said play, not watch in street clothes from the sideline.
That's a good question.
Like,
hold that thought.
I mean,
Mike
Dan is 257. Yeah.
Okay, so he's 8 pounds heavier than 7 pounds heavier than what he's listed at. Yeah. He better have some freakishly long arms and a ridiculous test because 250 is, I would say, is probably at their very bottom borderline of
listen, there's guys in this class that are like 230, 240. So, you know what? We actually had so small shameless plug to our friends over at the Kingdom Cast. They had me on earlier this week, and we actually had a conversation about what it means to be a Spags end and defensive lineman, and if that's changing or not. So, go check them out, and we can get more of my thoughts there. Another guy that I'm going to shout out, who again got some love after the Senior Bowl, Gabe Acas. It's spelled Jacas. Good news.
The J is silent.
I think he's just a fun player. Started all 4 years at Illinois, got better every year. He just and he's also, so just looking at his draft stuff, here's what this is how you know Kansas City's going to be looking at him. He's smart. He's a great teammate. He's really, really strong. Play through your face type of guy. NFC scouting.
Captain? Question mark?
Was he team captain? Oh, let's see. I think he's got more twitch than what we normally see out of those guys, but let's see. Team captain? Was he a team captain?
Was he a team captain? Survey says.
Team captain for the 2025 season.
All right.
We have a winner, ladies and gentlemen. We have a winner.
Gabe Acas, you are a Kansas City Chief. Okay, so Acas.
Is it really Acas? The J is silent?
It's a very soft J. Yeah.
What do you mean a soft J?
Like the K in knife. It's real soft.
Yeah, it's real soft.
I don't know if I'm picking up. What culture has the silent J?
I don't know. Anyways, moving on. I'm here. I'm the draft guy, not the name guy. You can figure that out.
That just seems crazy.
I'll learn it. I'll figure it out. I'll get you the guide.
Don't worry, I'm looking. There's pronunciation guides on some of these.
I'm about to say, where's the pronunciation guide? There's no way this guy's name is Acas.
Malachi Lawrence at a UCF, another medical guy, but also a guy I want to see just flexibility, change of direction, speed. He's getting some love. I think he's going to end up being a day 2 guy. There was another on my list. Keep an eye on Derek Moore at Michigan. Just feels like a Spags guy. I don't know if I'm just scouting, if it feels like, oh, look, it's the second coming of Mike Dana, because that's kind of what it feels like. So, we might just get that. We talked about Keldrick Falk. I want to talk about his teammate, Kieran Crawford, for just a second. Obviously, I've seen a little bit of him watching Keldrick play. 6'3", 251. So a little bit better. He's more twitchy, speed, not the typical type, but has gotten some love lately. He has gotten better. I think Auburn uses their guys weird sometimes, and they complain a lot about, like, with Keldrick Falk, there was the pass rush production. Crawford had that. Crawford is more of the natural pass rusher. I think, but he also kind of 9.5 sacks last year. Just kind of was used more as that, hey, go get the quarterback kind of player. I think he's got a lot of speed to him, a lot of burst to his game. I'm going to watch some more of him specifically when I'm not drooling over Keldrick. And just a lot of measurements this year that are going to be important. Cassius Howell, Texas A&M, his arm length will be something to watch. I've talked enough about what's his hoo-ha, Ruben Bain. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
His hoo-ha.
What's his hoo-ha?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
His hoo-ha. One other guy that might be surprising, Dante Corleone out of Cincinnati. Big guy, nose tackle, but he's pretty athletic, so he might put up some.
There's a couple of fun defensive tackles in this draft that went mine. Obviously, Caleb Banks, Corleone, Lee Hunter is another really fun one at Texas Tech. He's
both the Texas Tech guys.
Yeah.
Sky Gill Howard's fun. He's
Daryl Jackson Jr. from Florida State. He's really fun.
Yeah,
There's some good bodies in there, and D tackled, edge, all of it. I have a hot take that I would like to put out there, and I know it's a little controversial. I don't mind just a pass rush specialist. I really don't. I know Spags. All we care about is run stopping and stuff like that. I don't mind if we draft a little bit lighter guy who can just rush the passer. I don't really care. I know I've kind of said
I
this
don't
before,
mind if he actually puts him on the field.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, but it's just like we need to start. We need to start.
The thing for me.
Yeah. Well, hopefully some of these other defensive coaches or something were like, yeah, you know what, Spags, let's put the small guy out there, and he's actually going to get the pass to the passer, because that's the biggest problem. Run stopping, sure, fine, great, but we need to rush the passer. That's my thing. We need to rush the passer. We need pass rushers. Not an edge rusher. We need a pass rusher. All right.
Garrett, I went to Illinois' official team site. They have a pronunciation guide on the site. It is ACK us. ACK, all capitals, hyphen, underscore. Port St. Lucie, Florida, as a matter of fact.
No, but
he thinks his family is not necessarily from there originally.
Well, yeah, that's
I told you it was a soft J.
Yeah, I mean,
I have yet to find his. Oh, I guess we could try Wikipedia. It might have his parents' history, but anyway, nope. Dude, Sports Reference didn't even have his stats on the page. There's very little information running around.
Yeah, he doesn't have any flags in his bio or anything. So
nothing. He has nothing. There is no nada.
Gabe Akis, I suppose. It's just so weird. He even signed his signature has is GJ, so it's like
it could very much be one of the island nations that are just a little south of us. Jamaica and Philippines, of those areas could be one of those.
I'm gonna get to the bottom of it eventually.
I do have another name, and it is strictly because of the name. I think his name is Xavian, but I don't know that they thought that the X could also make the Z sound, so they went ahead and put another Z in front of it. So it is ZXAVIAN Harris. He played for Ole Miss. Actually, remember seeing him on the field during Ole Miss's playoff runs, which is a good start because I didn't remember watching a whole lot of Ole Miss's defense, but I did remember seeing him and his name pop up a few times. So he'll be interesting combine because he's a big boy. That's a D tackle. He's 6'7", 320. That's an inside piece, and they may be looking for one of those a little later in the draft because who knows what they're going to do with the Derek Nottie, Mike Pennell, who knows what carousel that is going on, because last year
another body in there.
That was probably the most confusing whole process of all of last season was the backup defensive tackle spot, because they let somebody else sign Nottie. Mike was the starter all through camp, and then they cut him. Then they traded for Nottie. Then they signed Pennell back when Nottie wasn't working after he told the Bengals, let me go, please. And so I think they've got to go younger next to Chris. You have Omar Norman Lott. He's kind of supposed to be more of a pass rusher. A guy that's 6'7", 320 that had 27 solo tackles last year is not the end of the world for me on an Ole Miss team.
Not bad.
So I'm curious to see if he's remotely athletic or if he is quite literally just huge.
And he does have he does fit in, so he's got a DUI and a domestic violence.
No, right on board. They're either, ladies and gentlemen, they are either team captains and Boy Scouts, or
the alternative. Yeah,
there is no middle ground.
I'm looking up his pronunciation because I think it might be Zazavian.
Zazavian? Is it double? Is it the double up?
Zazavian, yeah.
I mean, that's unique.
That is unique, yeah. You know, another thing
That's
not unique.
probably on the all name team area code.
Another guy
class.
who's not unique that I'm curious who's gonna test on this in the combine. Justin Jefferson. Curious how he's gonna test.
What?
Yeah, Justin Jefferson, linebacker from Alabama. No relation. Just
just a name.
That's just a name. Just throwing it out there. Justin Jefferson is in the combine, so we could draft Justin Jefferson. That'd be a pretty big come up. Also, there's no way there's any relation, but there's a linebacker named Owen Heineke. I wonder
what
if he's related to
Taylor
Heineke. Can't be the son, but
it doth seem Xavier is a general studies major at Ole Miss, which multiple disciplinary studies, which I think is the same thing as what they used to call general studies.
He's generally studying.
But he's from Mississippi. He went to Germantown High School in Mississippi, so
great.
He's from Canton.
We're winding down slowly here, but here's my sales pitch. We get Makai Lemon in round 1.
Okay, I'm in.
In round 2, we go back to the Citrus Grove, and we draft Dominique Orange, who is nicknamed Big Citrus.
Okay. Yep.
All right, I'm listening.
Then there's another citrus name somewhere in here. We could go with an all citrus themed draft. That's a thing.
Yeah, get a whole fruit salad going.
Well, if Florida, I mean, it's not fruit, but his last name is Sap, so it's in the same
kind of. Yeah, kind of. See what you're saying. Yeah. What else is there? These are the hard hitting questions we need to figure out. Can we get all citrus players?
There's another potential for another taco. His name is Tacario.
I will say, Iowa, there's Xavier Nwankpa, Nwankpa.
Okay. It's a good one.
Great name. Yeah.
Okay, so I have
a punter named Trey Smack. That
is a specialist name if I've ever heard a specialist name. That is
Trey
also
Smack.
Sounds like a mid-card WWE superstar.
Yes.
But
he's a kicker.
Nice. Okay, well, let's wind down. I got one more question. This is general. We didn't cover every position. There's some more corners and safeties, and there's a couple other linemen we didn't really talk about.
We would be here for another.
We would be here for a long time, but I do have one final question that I think can be kind of relevant here to the Chiefs, and a good question for both of you guys, especially Tom. Is there anyone near the top of the draft, in the top, projected like 20, 25 picks, that with a very impressive combine performance could potentially jump up into the top 10 range, and I say that just because there's this, as Chiefs fans have been doing a lot of mock drafts and predicting and stuff like that. I think there's probably generally like 10-ish guys, maybe 9, 8-ish guys that I think a lot of Chiefs fans would be really happy with. But I think there's been a couple scenarios if you do some mock drafts where you get to pick 9 and a lot of those ideal guys are kind of off the board already. Is there someone that could jump into that top 10 that can then therefore maybe allow another guy to fall a little bit farther to where the Chiefs range? I immediately think of like a guy like Peter Woods, for example. That was a guy that's like top 15, 20-ish status that maybe a really impressive combine performance bumps him up into that category. Is there anyone else, Tom, that you can kind of see in that range?
Yeah. So, I mean, probably the most beneficial one would be some of those offensive linemen. So this class doesn't necessarily have the pecking order at tackle is still kind of shaping up, and there's a lot of teams who are going to be picking early who just go, there's not a quarterback here, what do we do? And it's never a bad idea to take linemen. Yeah. So Monroe Freeling, I mentioned, I think he's firmly a first rounder right now, and if he had a really good combine, it wouldn't surprise me to see him jump up further. There's some people who really, really like Blake Miller out of Clemson, who's a tackle. Reminds me of oh goodness, a couple years ago, the Bears took Darnell Wright at 10 out of Tennessee. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he's got some big fans. Another tackle, Max Ahinakor,
Yeah.
Ahinakor, out of
The
Arizona
LSU
State.
guy, right?
Uh, Arizona State.
Arizona. I knew it was yellow, something yellow. Yeah.
Yeah, he is fascinating to me. I would low key, if he was there at 40, I would. I think you had to have that conversation.
Yeah. I don't even think he'll be there at 40 with how his tape's
Yeah,
looking. Yeah.
yeah. Well, he's kind of raw. He's only been playing football for like 3 or 4 years, but he's got a soccer background. I saw a tweet that said, because he's like 6'7", 320, and someone's like, at 6'7", 320 pounds, what position was he playing in soccer? And
Jeez,
I
I
said,
would hate to
whatever
go
position
against
he
him.
played.
Go for a slide
um,
tackle, absolutely wipe out a kid. Oh my god.
yeah, he'd wipe out a whole line.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, I think that's like the most likely area. Another name that could jump in there would be Kenyon Sadiq. He's gonna just test like a freak athlete. There's conversations,
Yeah.
Vernon comes up, which is just not fair to any kid because Vernon Davis was such a freak. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, and then I think Caleb Banks has a chance. I mean, but he'd be a guy that I think the Chiefs would have to talk about. Same thing, Keldrick Falk. Um, my goal is to give you so many names that Kyle can't name any of them. So
Yeah,
Kyle, no,
maybe even Cassius Howell can sneak into there,
his arms are going to be real short. Like he
Yeah,
might.
hey, some team, not us, but some team might be like, hey, we're fine, we'll do it. Kyle, any other names you can think of that are in that conversation that stick out to you?
Uh, I mean, Tom talked about Caleb
I'm fine,
Banks
go for
earlier,
it.
and he Caleb Banks tests crazy, and I've seen big boards where he's like 24. I've seen big boards where he's like 15. He's kind of in that odd spot. I've seen him up in the top 10. If he tests crazy, that could be a guy that moves. If they weren't all the way up the board, he could move up. Lee Hunter, the D lineman out of Texas Tech, he had a pretty good Senior Bowl. Or I think it was Senior Bowl, wasn't it? I can't remember. He was at one of the All
Yeah,
Star
he was
games.
at Senior Bowl.
I think it was the Senior Bowl. He had a pretty good Senior Bowl. There's a Texas Tech connection there. If the Chiefs are looking, but he's a guy that if he tests well, he could move up into that later first round, middle of the first round area. Um, I, you mentioned Cassius Howell, Garrett. I think that's another name. Uh, if Kenyon Sadiq is just an alien, he is a very interesting weapon. I don't know if you call him a tight end. They list him as a tight end.
You do listen as
He's
tight
a
end, but it's kind of Kyle Pittsy in
I
that
don't
sense, where it's like, man, is
a
he?
little.
Yeah.
So that's a guy. Denzel Boston out of Washington. That's another there. So there's some guys in that middle piece with a crazy Zion Young out of Missouri.
Yeah, he can definitely
I've
sneak into the
seen
first
his
round.
name
Yeah.
several times. He could probably hop up into that first round area. So there's the combine is important. It's just
Yeah.
how much importance do teams put on guys running around in the old phrase is the underwear Olympics, the guys running around in shorts and tank tops and whatnot. How important is that?
It's a lot different than pads and on game day, but
I think Tom's point about the combine and the medicals being a really big piece. I think the interviews matter a ton more than people give them credit for. The on the field stuff is important, but some of the stuff that they do that no one else really gets to know is also super key. So
yeah, I agree. I am hopeful that Keldrick Falk really impresses so much that someone drafts him over Ruben Bain, and then Ruben Bain falls to 9. I think that'd be ideal. I think that'd be an ideal situation. But other than that, I'm excited. I'm excited to follow the combine. Should be a fun time. Always good to just throw on the NFL Network and well, NFL Network probably won't be around much longer, but it's always a good time to just put on the combine and watch some guys and get the numbers and all that stuff. Always fun to see the the runs and the comparisons, the ghost runs and all that stuff they do for the 40-yard dash is always fun, and how they compare them to certain guys. So I'm sure there's going to be a Patrick Mahomes simulcam with one of these random prospects. There always is. So should be fun. Should be fun to watch. Definitely excited for it. So I think that's it. I think we've covered it. I think we knocked out a good episode tonight for all of you guys. Appreciate everyone joining us and rock with us tonight. Almost an hour and a half here. So, it's draft season, baby. It's off season time. It's good time. So we're going to definitely be more present here the next few weeks leading up to the draft and whatnot. We've got a lot of really exciting content coming up for you guys. A lot of, things in the works, you could say, and different plans and stuff that we got going. So it should be a fun off season. We appreciate you all for rocking with us and watching. Be sure to catch us at Kingdom Says Pod, Facebook, X, and Instagram. Check us out, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts at. We will be here. Shout out. We love you too, Xavier. I love you too. Shout out, Zay. All right. Anything else, guys? I think we nailed it. I think we're good.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, we're good. We'll be around.
I would say that Ian Rappaport kind of described the NFL Network purchased by ESPN as like an SEC network thing, so I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to necessarily run away, but we'll see.
Hopefully.
We'll see how it plays out.
But no, I think that pretty much covers the combine preview stuff. We have some other topics, but luckily we have like 6 months to go over some of these. So.
We got a whole lot of time. All right? We got a lot of time to speculate.
We shall see you guys soon. Subscribe button if you're watching this live.
Subscribe, hit the like button.
If you're not watching this live, hit the subscribe button. Everybody hit the like button, please. I see 41 of you in it. Hop over on the YouTube, hit the like button for us. It helps us get the show to more Chiefs fans like you guys, and we'll have a ton of content coming up. So we're now, the season's back. The new season has started, essentially, like Tom said. This is kind of the launching point for what's to come with the NFL. You get the combine, then they start doing pro days, then you got free agency kicks off, then you got the draft, then we get to OTAs and minicamp, rookie minicamp and OTAs, and we're right back at it. So
back at it, like it never left,
And apparently, Patrick Mahomes has been rehabbing for 7 hours a day at the facility, according to Andy Reid. So we didn't get to the Andy Reid presser. We're sorry. If you want, it's
also
over on the Chiefs.
Shout best wishes to Andy for having knee surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on IR for a couple weeks here, but he's gonna be back. He's gonna be back. Yeah. Big Red's gonna be back in action in no time. Just
I think he'll be ready. I think he'll be ready by week 1. I think
he'll be. That's a much better timetable than some of the other ones we're looking at. So, all right, that's it. Appreciate everyone for watching and walking with us. We will see you guys on the next episode of The Kingdom Says.
Peace.